I gotta tell you, it's been a treat, fellas, but it's time for us to rock and roll!
Growing up as a 90s kid, Biker Mice from Mars was all the rage. People couldn't get enough of this badass biker gang that took down the evil Plutarchians to protect their own planet, and also lead the fight on Earth. The animated TV series was highly applauded and almost outsold the iconic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles during its prime. However, all the rage for this series dwindled substantially when new episodes stopped coming. But guess what? Biker Mice from Mars is back with yet another episode. This time as a comic book series. With creative experts like Melissa Flores and Francis Portela on the job, it's expected that this comic book series will be a definite hit. Issue number 1 of the series was released quite recently and received many positive reviews. But before we explore the new issue, let's first take a brief look at the iconic series and basically provide you with a refresher on Biker Mice from Mars. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Well, I guess warm-up's over. My blood pressure's starting to rise.
Biker Mice from Mars. If you've never heard about the iconic Biker Mice from Mars, then surely you're missing out on a great animated series. For starters, the show centers around 3 mice hailing from the planet Mars. They're called Throttle, Moto, and Vinny. Each character has a distinctive trait, and they're really close friends. Suddenly, their planet was invaded by a race of fish-like aliens called the Plutarchian, and our bikers had to take up the responsibility to fight evil. After fighting an intense battle, the mice people sadly lost to the Plutarchians. But guess what? Our characters didn't lose hope and came to Earth to save humans before the Plutarchians created destruction and chaos on our planet. The series does a great job of combining elements of science fiction with badass action. All the bike stunts and the exhilarating sequences act as an icing on the cake over a great screenplay. The show is a big hit, so many people were super excited when it made a comeback in the form of a comic book series. With the first issue out now, we'll be going way back and exploring the origin story of Throttle, Moto, and Vinny before they made their way to Earth. So without further ado, let's relive the story of Biker Mice from Mars. Summary of issue number 1. Issue number 1 of the much-anticipated series starts with Throttle, Moto, and Vinny doing their usual biking routine and exploring the canyons. The bikers are talking about a certain festival that's supposed to be the biggest one on the planet. Everyone is expected to be there, and there'll be a lot of fireworks. Well, they weren't wrong about the fireworks because the festival was soon ambushed by the evil Plutarchians. The reason they caught the mice people off guard was that they initially came to Mars for business, but suddenly they started to colonize the planet and control everything. The tension was pretty high, and the Plutarchians decided to invade the planet altogether. With their superior strength and firepower, the mice people were no match. The festival was about to turn into a disaster, but Throttle, Moto, and Vinny came in clutch and saved the day. This is also the first time we get to see them before their enhancements and cybernetic arms. Additionally, we also get to see the amazing firepower they have on their bikes. Being a biker myself, this sequence was super exhilarating. Although the bikers were able to defeat the Plutarchians, this wasn't the only place they attacked. It was a full-blown invasion, and the people were soon drafted for the oncoming war. With everyone gearing up for war, Throttle, Moto, and Vinny carved a different path altogether. The reason being, Throttle didn't want to leave his mother and go fight a distant war. Instead, he and his friends decided to keep the vicinity safe and take down small garrisons of the Plutarchians. This is where the first issue starts to become a bit more serious as we get to see the bad side of a war and how families are separated and people are killed just for power and money. While talking about their existential crisis, the bikers come across a group of rat people. They are another race of aliens living on Mars, but sadly, they have sided with the Plutarchians and have been assisting them in this war. The bikers quickly take down the garrison with relative ease. However, their bikes take a hit, and now it's time to go to Harley's garage. After reaching the garage, Throttle, being the suave, charismatic mouse, starts to flirt with Harley. I changed miss for up. On the other hand, Vinny, who has a huge crush on Harley, looks on from far away because he's too shy to talk to her. Moto then diffuses the situation by telling Vinny about the current conditions of the brutal war. This small sequence helps us understand a lot about their personalities. We get to learn that Throttle is the charismatic, outspoken member of the gang. Vinny is the shy and introverted member who is a true genius on the bike. And lastly, Moto is the leader of the gang and the most level-headed. They really balance each other's traits and weaknesses, and due to this, their chemistry is exceptional. While we're on the subject of chemistry, the gang gets into a massive fight later on when they start their regular search for smugglers. The argument starts when Moto and Throttle start to discuss the possibility of joining the war and taking help from the Martian army. The biker gang is almost fed up with taking down small smugglers, and they actually want to do something meaningful. However, Moto doesn't want anything to do with the army, as he wants to protect his family. Throttle agrees, but also thinks that the army can help them take down a bigger fish instead of the usual smugglers. Vinny tries to stop their fight, but to no avail. However, their attention soon turns towards a distant explosion, and the gang gets focused again. It seems that Lieutenant Carbine is pinned by the Plutarchian forces and also gets hurt in the process. The gang rushes to her help, but suddenly a mysterious person causes a landslide, destroying the entire regiment of the Plutarchian army. After rescuing Carbine, the gang asks her about the mysterious landslide, and it's revealed that there is a lone rebel living in the mountains who is bound to take on the Plutarchian army. Maybe we'll get to see more about that in future issues. Now there's a bigger fish to fry, and Lieutenant Carbine will need all the help she can get. Carbine then guides them to a secure location where they see a massive camp of the Plutarchian army. It seems that things have gotten more serious and extreme actions need to be taken. Carbine recognizes that Throttle, Moto, and Vinny are vigilantes, but instead of arresting them, she asks them to join the Martian army. At first, the gang rejects her proposal, but later she talks sense into them. She informs them that the enemy is much more serious now, and it's about time they got their hands on the kind of firepower that could match their willpower and abilities. The gang soon understands that joining the army is the best thing to do, and they actually save their families by defeating the enemy altogether. After having a thorough discussion, Throttle, Moto, and Vinny decide to meet their families for the final time before they go into battle. As they prepare for the inevitable war, another discussion is taking place in the Plutarchian camp. There is a certain someone who has been disrupting the Plutarchians' plans for a long time now. The king learns that he's a war criminal named Stoker. This is the same guy who helped Lieutenant Carbine escape. Stoker has already destroyed many troops, so now he will get a visit from an entire platoon of the rat-like aliens. But before we get to see the forthcoming action, issue number 1 of Biker Mice from Mars comes to an end. Future series episodes. With the Plutarchian army and the Sand Raiders, or Rat People, now focused on defeating the lone rebel, it seems that issue number 2 will be centered around that fight and how the biker gang will assist Stoker in defeating them. We know that all of these people are located in the same area and have the same objective, which is to destroy that massive Plutarchian camp. That camp is massive in size, and they possess many weapons. If they're not stopped, they can easily level the entire city on Mars. With a forthcoming battle of survival on the cards, it's expected that the future issues will be full of intense action and exhilarating sequences. The first issue gave us a good insight into their backstory. Now it's time to face the real fight. However, longtime fans of the series are familiar with the sad ending. Throttle, Moto, and Vinny will eventually lose out to the massive Plutarchian army, and in turn will suffer permanent injuries, resulting in the cybernetic enhancements that we have seen in the iconic TV series. But there's a silver lining. We will get to witness their acts of bravery this time around, and can also understand the Great War that happened on the planet of Mars. This is a great origin story of the Biker Mice, and has gotten me excited to rewatch the entire TV series that aired in the 90s. The reboot is to keep the same aesthetics as the TV series. Longtime fans of the Biker Mice from Mars understand that the series was more about aesthetics and the biker action scenes than the storyline. It was a favorite for all the bikers and kids who wanted to ride bikes all day. I know because I was one of them. Personalities of the characters easily triumphed over the storyline. Melissa Flores, the creator of Biker Mice, understands that and wants to keep the reboot similar to the TV series. We can expect a similar type of aesthetic and the witty humor between Throttle, Moto, and Vinny. But most importantly, the bike sequences are set to be more elaborate and intricate due to the involvement of super talented artists. It seems that all questions are going to be answered because the makers have decided to connect this origin story to the TV series. With so many storylines to cover, it seems that the reboot of Biker Mice from Mars will focus entirely on the Great War on Mars and what led to their escape to Earth. However, it could be completely different because future issues haven't been released yet. Conclusion. Marvelous verdict. The Biker Mice from Mars is a breath of fresh air in the world of superhero comics and crime-fighting spiders. This series has the potential to garner attention from a different audience altogether. Many people love biker culture and its vibe. Combine that with elements of science fiction and the badass attitude of the characters, and you have the ideal recipe for a super interesting comic series. With so much hype for the series, we can't wait for the next issue to roll around. If you're waiting like us, be sure to check out our library of super interesting videos on comic books and TV series. Also, let us know what you think about the reboot of Biker Mice from Mars and their origin story. With that, our feature comes to an end. Thank you, and stay marvelous. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.